Greetings everyone, Silverfane Dancer 98. Now it's time for a slightly different Toku video. We're looking at Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. A walk turns into a ninja run. Explode when defeated. So yeah, let's check this out. Yep, Kakuranger. There's the, as Americans call him, the Ningor guy. But then who the heck is the undead dude? I think that's a villain, or is that just someone's body that turned into a monster? Guess we'll find out.
In 1994, after Jetman, Zyuranger, and Dairanger proved to be a successful comeback run for Super Sentai, Toei produced Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. Kakuranger would be a series taking heavy inspiration from Japanese folklore to serve as a thematic pair with Dairanger and its Chinese imagery, and it would carry on the spirit of Sentai with full force confidence. Sentai was not coming back anymore. It was already back, and now it's ready to run with the fresh, youthful energy of a newly revived property. And boy, does it show. Kakuranger is a show so confident and fun that it makes you forget that even just 3 years earlier, the franchise it belonged to was set to end with a big, bittersweet farewell. Along with this confidence, Kakuranger is also fueled by new innovations in toy making and show running that Zyuranger and Dairanger had displayed before it, and now Kakuranger plays around with those ideas and offers up one of the freshest shows of the 90s so far. On all fronts, Kakuranger is a force to be reckoned with.
Kakuranger, ninja, ninja.
I think the first thing most people would notice about Kakuranger, especially when compared to Dairanger, is that the attitude of the show is a fair bit different. Kakuranger is lighthearted and absolutely brimming with life. It takes many cues from manga, especially shonen manga and gag manga, and in those genres, ninja are just a little bit popular.
I remember Flame of Recca. Yeah, that one was definitely felt like what was that show? Kind of like another version of D Gray Man or something like that almost.
I mean, look at all these. There's so many more I could just name. So on a thematic level, it makes perfect sense that this show would kind of turn up the goofy factor and appeal itself more to the manga-reading, anime-watching, Super Famicom-playing youth of 1994 Japan. Honestly, this theme is such a great fit for Sentai that it's incredible that this is the 18th season of the show and it's the first ninja-themed Sentai in the show's history. As usual, before we look at the execution of the show itself, let's talk about the show's design. Look at those suits. They're practically perfect. The Kakuranger have a really simplistic but iconic design that evokes nearly every single ninja design cliche. The small swords on the back, the headbands, the collars. The designs aren't busy at all either, which is rarely a big problem for Sentai honestly, but it comes much appreciated here. I love the color lineup too, as this is the first one to get just a little bit weird on us. Here we have red, blue, yellow, black, and white. Primary colors in black and white. About as basic as you could possibly ask for, but really evocative. The lineup of colors in a Sentai seems like a minor thing to point out, but it's something I appreciate a ton when it comes to making a team really pop out from a lineup of now over 40 years of Sentai. It definitely counts for something, I think. The arsenal is basically what you'd expect. Just some swords and shurikens and random ninja tools. Nothing outrageous or really special, which is something I think Dairanger does have in spades over this show. Those dudes had weapons for days. And that's not the focus here, though. Not at all. No, the weapons don't matter even a little bit, because the main attractions, the real money printers, the actual showstoppers here, are the absolutely amazing, drop-dead gorgeous, downright transcendent mecha. These robots fucking rule. First, we have Muteki Shogun, an absolute boss hog of a robot based on a feudal-era Japanese castle, and god to the damn does it look good. Muteki Shogun, as well as the other mecha in this show, is sentient, much like the mecha in Zyuranger. The coolest part about Muteki Shogun, though, in my humble opinion, is that he's made up of 5 entire humanoid robots, all of which make up the castle. This is the first of its kind in Sentai as far as I can tell, and in combination with the unique look of the entire thing, serves to make the robot one of the most iconic and enduring mecha of the series. It's honestly just incredibly standout. At a somewhat early point in the show, we get the Jusho fighters, leaner versions of the initial humanoid mecha forms that make up Muteki Shogun. They can do flips and acrobatic shit that something as chunky wonky as the old Muteki can't quite handle.
I've been mentioning that for so many mecha clip shows that I've seen on my channel, I've reacted to. And from all the Power Rangers and Super Sentai that I've watched, I always wonder, how do those poor actors wear those chunky suits? And he calls them chunky wonky. I love this dude.
They're neat and make for some really refreshing mecha scenes here and there. Later in the series, we get Tsubasa Maru, a giant falcon that serves an upgrade to Muteki Shogun, forming, Super Muteki Shogun. Now it has cannons. Nice. And just a bit after Tsubasa Maru's introduction in the show's best arc, we get Kakure Daishogun. That mecha you've probably seen before when it was ruined by the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie's horrible CGI rendition. I'm just gonna say it right now. Kakure Daishogun is my favorite of the mecha that we've seen in Explode When Defeated so far. On its face, it's a fairly bog-standard animal mecha, but every single animal serves great purpose in the design, especially like the frog making up the entire lower half of the body. Super cool stuff. There's also the note of its story significance. The way this mecha is built up in the series is some seriously amazing stuff, especially for its time. Really serves to make this thing feel vital to the show's internal harmony, emphasized by how Kakure Daishogun's debut is the turning point of the show, both in terms of plot and tone. Also, Tsubasa Maru shows up a lot of the time to give this thing wings. That rules too. Tsubasa Maru is a true mecha hype man, always supporting its dudes. And there's another mecha I've not described yet, but we'll get to that soon. Don't worry. Just put a pin in it. So let's talk execution. How does this show really stack up to its predecessors? With Sentai, even at this early point in our discussion of the show at large, the discussion really does just turn into how each show is able to set itself apart from the others and make a real mark. With Rider and Ultraman, they're able to play with the premise and format a bit more freely, so this point becomes less of a sticking point in discussion about these series. But with Sentai, it's nearly the entire discussion, since there's such a defined, strict format, which I admit can be a little exhausting. It is important, though. Luckily, with Kakuranger, we're in good hands because this show manages to feel so fresh. Despite not being the most revolutionary Sentai in human history, it manages this by taking basically only the best from the immediately previous shows, and on top of that, offering its own tweaks to the Sentai routine, a couple of which have been rarely replicated in the 25 years since. Zyuranger's revolutions in mecha design are in full force here, and truly iterated upon in Kakuranger. I feel like Dairanger, while it did some genuinely new stuff with the armor gimmick in Daireno, the mecha after that point in the show didn't quite capture that 6 mecha bliss of Dragon Caesar. The mecha after were just kind of animals that transformed, or didn't so much transform. Kakuranger gets kind of the advantage here for having 2 separate 5-piece mecha for the team, rather than just 6 or 7 mecha that get mixed around or stacked on top of each other for the desired effect. Muteki and Kakure are 2 fully featured designs that lend to the show's identity, and that's part of Kakuranger's innovations. The structure of the show itself really owes a lot to both Jetman and Dairanger as well, taking the staggered team introduction from Jetman a bit further by only introducing Sasuke, Saizo, and Tsuruhime, Ninja Red, Ninja Blue, and Ninja White respectively, in the debut episode, while giving Seikai, Ninja Yellow, and Jiraiya, Ninja Black, their own introductory episodes to form the team. Jetman had all 5 members present in the first episode, it's just that only 3 of them transformed. This serves to really differentiate the team in a meaningful way, giving each of the characters time to define themselves a bit before becoming the amorphous blob that Sentais can kind of feel like sometimes. And this is really important too, because on their face, the Kakurangers can kind of feel like that amorphous blob. They're basically a pack of well-meaning morons that hang out in their cat truck. Also, there's a cat truck, a big food truck that's also a cat. It rules. Also, the first leg of the show
I was wondering about that weird truck.
really just emphasizes this, with each episode basically picking a Kakuranger at random to kind of make him look like an idiot and impart on them some lesson or trial to becoming a better and cooler ninja. They're basically the Ninja Turtles. And over the course of the show, each member really serves to set themselves apart. Tsuruhime and Jiraiya have the easiest time of this because, well, Tsuruhime is the girl, and thus the only one with a decent head on her shoulders, and Jiraiya is from America, so he speaks English at random points, and it's always great.
Jiraiya makes an observation that no one can understand English, so he gets trampled over by such people who say observation jet. Jeez.
Everyone, the scroll's over there. 何言ってんだ。日本語で。Over there.
He also just kind of seems to have it more together than the rest of the guys, even though he has idiot himbo tendencies as well. And yes, I just said himbo in a video. Eat my ass. There are himbos here, and they're very welcome in my house. Sasuke, Saizo, and Seikai are
Well, exploding defeated, you got your interest in the line, I see.
the ones that really needed the time to stand out. First of all, they're all names that start with an S. Come on. Secondly, Sasuke and Saizo were introduced as a pair then in what is probably one of my favorite sequences of any Super Sentai premiere, where they just spend several minutes of the first episode just encountering ghosts and then screaming and running over and over again. It's gold. Tsuruhime sweeps in to give them some direction, and that's where they gain their Kakuranger powers, and then after that point is when Seikai comes in. General ages for each member aren't really made clear in the show itself, but Seikai is kinda shown to be the young one for a while. As the show pushes forth, Sasuke and Saizo start to separate all amoeba-like. Sasuke starts to assume a more authoritative role and become the truly hot-blooded member of the team compared to the others, though not completely authoritative. He's still a goofus, and they all just kind of hang out and have fun. Saizo is fun, because along with Seikai, he's kind of the comedic relief character. He gets the weirdest fucking focus episodes. One where he gets lost in a maze with a child, another where he loses his fucking face and has to help out a girl that wanted to lose her face so she could make it look like an anime girl, and one where he and the rest of the team are trapped in a manga and Saizo has the worst day ever. Seikai falls in with Saizo a lot of the time in the later section of the show, but picks up youthful characteristics like being the team flirt and really liking food, you know, dipshit stuff. So yeah, despite being a little one note on the surface, the Kakurangers are a team that can invite a little closer look with the way that their characters bump and crash into each other comedically and dramatically, shown best by how ridiculous and funny a lot of the filler episodes are, and how dramatic and heartfelt the longer, more serious arcs tend to be. This is where the structure really comes in. The show's flow is like if Jetman and Ranger fused together and made something that truly flows like a shonen manga would. There's a staggered introduction of the team-building dynamic in Jetman, and the larger arc focus in Ranger. In fact, the arc structure here is pushed to the point of the show where it actually just outright says within its narrative that the first 24 episodes of Kakuranger are effectively part 1, with the second half comprising of part 2. You'll notice that I haven't talked about the villains yet, and that's for a decently good reason. For the first part of the show, there's not a ton to talk about. The villains of the show are yokai, undead creatures and ghosts in Japanese folklore that are set loose on accident by Sasuke and Saizo at the beginning of the show. In the first leg, it's very chaotic, with each new yokai coming and going at their own will, not governed by any higher council of yokai generals or anything. That is until one shows up in episode 14 by the name of Junior. Junior's an additional chaotic presence to the show, a youthful punk in his own right that just wants to raise some hell. He serves as a great counter to the equally youthful but fun-loving Kakurangers, a bunch of buttheads in a van versus a sadistic punk rock idiot trying to pull the world into darkness and chaos. In the second half, Junior gives way to the
One of those phrases do not go together.
a true king of the yokai, and for the last 20 episodes of the show, it starts to behave a little bit like a normal Sentai, which is really interesting, I think. Because of my extensive familiarity with the series at large, I tend to prefer when shows throw me some pretty unpredictable villain dynamics, but I always have room in my heart for rock-solid dynamics that work. Kakurangers does both, and does them relatively strongly, I might add. I don't think the Daimao dynamic is quite as good as the Bandora gang, or really as interesting as the Gorma ultimately became, but in the second half of the show it becomes way less about the yokai and more about the coming of age of these 5 dinguses, making their way to becoming genuinely well-rounded adults. See, in the second half of Kakuranger, the team actually starts to adopt the more Zyuranger school of thought with the dynamic. Colored by the youthful mistakes and shortcomings of the first half of the series, these 5 start to become great friends to their community, helping out children every episode, even if this kind of starts before the second half, and serving as real wise mentor figures while still retaining their idiot fun stuff too. It's actually super well-rounded and shows growth. That transitionary villain dynamic, though, that I talked about is just one of the ways that Kakuranger twists what came before. The second, arguably most notable twist, is that while the show doesn't exactly outright declare it, Tsuruhime is definitely the true leader of the Kakurangers, and the de facto main character. For one, she actually knew what was going on at the start, and secondly, I mean, just look at the headpieces of both the mecha. White cranes. Tsubasa Maru? White as well. And ultimately, the final arc of the show was actually hers, having to do with her trying to save her father from the clutches of the Daimao. Tsuruhime is a character with a lot on her shoulders. She has to lead around a pack of Nimrods to try to save the world from a mistake a couple of those same Nimrods made at the beginning of the show. Thankfully, the show doesn't elect to make her a stick in the mud about it, though. Sure, she's the serious one for a little bit at the start, but she quickly falls in line with the others and is just as fun-loving and goofy as the rest of the cast, and does her part to make the Kakurangers one of the most approachable and relatable teams in the series. Kakuranger does its share to really progress what came before, for sure. It rounds out a rough trilogy about youth, too. Zyuranger is about guardians bestowing values upon the children of the world to hopefully grow a future. Ranger throws doubt into the equation, a series about ongoing conflicts and sins of the past, messes left for the children to pick up. And Kakuranger is a show about kids, with no mentors really to speak of, left to their own devices and finding their way regardless. Children and the world at large will be alright in the end, no matter what, because humanity is such that kindness will be fostered whether evil or chaos wants it to or not. It's a comfortable sentiment and one that's delivered in a way that still brings those values to the forefront without just being total fluff. All of this is bolstered by a beautifully colorful world, one where there's an announcer giving rough biographies of each yokai, and then returns late in the show to give like a behind-the-scenes look at the team while summarizing their journey so far. It's really fun, amazing stuff. There's also
Did he just take out a yokai minion with a bottle?
Ninja Man, a perfect echo of the first part of the show that shows up fairly late into Kakuranger's run, in episode 36. Ninja Man is an apprentice of sorts to Meiteki Shogun, Kakure Shogun, and Tsubasa Maru, who are ancient warrior gods from generations before, dedicated to fighting the yokai. Ninja Man is unique in that he's an apprentice mecha, which is a really bizarre idea, but he's also effectively the show's Sixth Ranger, though in the fanbase's parlance he's considered to be an extra hero, someone that's additional to the cast but isn't considered an actual member because of story reasons and, like, design and stuff. Ninja Man's fucking hilarious, though. He's an arrogant weirdo that tries too hard, but is also kind of a weird mascot, and kids would get attached to him pretty fairly easily. I mean, I know I love the guy and stuff, and especially as a child, I would be like, yeah, this guy's, I love him. He's the guy. Kakuranger, forget about it. This is the guy. There's a lot of fun stuff with him in the episodes leading to the end, so he still makes his mark on the show before it finishes and stuff, even though he's introduced super late. That late introduction is for a good reason, though, because since he comes in during the second half of the show, he contrasts with the newly mature team, becoming the comedic relief mascot character that sort of completes the team dynamic at this point. If he was introduced around episode 17 like Dragon Ranger or Keeper Ranger, he actually would have been redundant. Also, Ninja Man turns into a proper mecha with his Samurai Man form, which occurs when a yokai calls him a novice or something to that effect, and he gets mad. It's great. Sure, yes, this is clumsy writing, especially when it happens nearly every episode after a certain point, but also, so is writing a mech fight into every episode of Super Sentai. What's a little more clumsiness to the equation? I think to close out, I want to speak a little on that turning.
I mean, fair. I mean, you gotta break that down. Come on. There's a mecha fight almost every episode, so you kinda have to write in something to change up the formula a little bit.
Point I keep referring back to that cleaves the series in two, as it's a moment that truly feels huge for Sentai as a show at large. See, after a certain point with the introduction of Tsubasa Maru, Junior starts raising some ultimate hell with the promise of awakening the Daimao, and to try to stop it, something pretty wild happens for the Kakurangers, something that doesn't really happen very often in Sentai. They separate. There's limited time, and the only way to stop Junior is to awaken the parts of Kakure Daishogun with the corresponding scrolls. So this is the only way to get that accomplished, is to separate, and that's huge. It is in this arc that the show really shows off its true colors. Each of the Kakurangers really get moments to shine, both serious and comedic. The new mecha combination gets some serious and well-deserved build-up, and the arc is just long enough to make you miss the team at around 5 or 6 episodes. It's honestly pretty wild to me that Sentai doesn't do this sort of thing more often, to really hammer in the importance of the team dynamic. You don't know what you got till it's gone, that type of thing. And to end off, there's one of the most triumphant mecha debuts in the series, and a send-off to a fantastic villain to boot. It's an arc that has it all, and it really reminds you just how good Super Sentai can be, what Super Sentai can bring to the table that Kamen Rider and Ultraman just can't. This arc is the centerpiece of the show, and one that heightens everything before and after, to the point where it doesn't really matter if some of the other arcs are weaker or not. This show fosters love for its cast and world like no other, and that's something to be seriously commended for a show in a format that gives it such a limited shelf life. This is the kind of stuff that makes these shows truly memorable. So yeah, Kakuranger is a show that builds on before. If Jetman was Super Sentai crawling back to the surface, and Zero Ranger was the show finding its footing again, and Dai Ranger was the show settling into a comfortable walk, then Kakuranger is the show full-on booking it, running into the future with renewed confidence and inspiration, breaking new ground and setting forth new ideas.
Henceforth the title, Walk turns into a ninja run.
With seemingly little to stop it, especially in times like right now, where the future of Sentai comes into question about every year or so. It's amazing to see a point in time where Sentai seemed completely unstoppable. Long live these dumbass ninjas and their cat bus. I hope it never runs out of gas.
The cat bus.
Alright, and that is yet another Explode When Defeated episode.
Yep. Rest of it is, I believe, yep, credits, patrons, that kind of thing, guys. So we'll skip that last part. But anyway, definitely a good one. I like it. I personally enjoyed this. I hope you guys did too, honestly, because that was a lot of good background information about how they made it, how it went, how the writing was, how the combat was, how the suits were. All of it was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. Looking forward to seeing more of Toku stuff, such as more Sentai, more Kamen Rider, more Ultraman, as we get back into our normal scheduled programming, as it were, on this channel. But you guys take care. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.